British actor.
Yeah.
I've seen you in so many things.
Yeah.
And I thought you were an American.
Yeah, everybody does. Actually, it's a long story, so I won't bore you with it. But briefly, I'm from Scotland. I'm a Scots. I'm from Dundee, which is my hometown. But I was raised on American cinema. I had, in those days, I'm a child of the 50s, which I suspect some of you may be as well. And I used to go to the cinema. There used to be two cinemas, the Broadway and the Royal, and they did programs midweek. They changed. So you could see as many as 4 films a week. Or actually, you could see 8 films a week, 4 films in either cinema. And that was my babysitter. And I always wanted to be an actor, but I wanted to be an American actor. I never wanted to be a British actor or even a Scottish actor. So it took me a long time, but I did all the classical work. I did all the theatre work in King Lear and Titus Andronicus and all the major stuff at the Royal Shakespeare Company and the National Theatre. And then in the mid-90s, I took myself off to America to become basically, I didn't intend to be an American actor. I just tended to act in movies, but I ended up playing a lot of Americans.
And now you're playing Churchill.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier that there's a racehorse racing in the UK at the moment called Churchill, which is a champion.
Oh, really?
And you can't really have a horse called Churchill running 14th in races in the Shetland Islands. I mean, I wondered, is it a bit like playing Churchill? With the role of Churchill comes great responsibility as an actor?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it always helps when you've got a great script. And luckily, I think this is an extraordinary young woman called Alex van Tonselman, who is a historian, and her specialty is historical accuracy. And she certainly did her work on this, and it's just a great script.
Well, it's an amazing film. I saw the whole film on Monday, and so many questions come out of this. Were you surprised to find the flaws in Churchill during those last 3 days before?
Yeah.
Before Operation Overlord?
Yeah, I was. I'll tell you a brief story about that. Churchill was my MP, well, except I wasn't alive. It was before I was born. But my uncle Geordie was one of the people who, shall we say, escorted Churchill out of the town. And when he came in 1922, when he was changed parties, they brought him in on it was like a sedan chair because he was sick. So it was basically an armchair with 2 oars. And my uncle said to these 2 guys, he said, "How much did he pay you?" And they said, £1. And he said, "We'll give you 12 if you drop him."
I asked you before, are you a smoker? And you said you were not. I have never seen so much smoke in a movie in my life. In every scene, you're lighting up a cigar and blowing smoke out of your ears almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you cope with that?
Well, it's very funny because in Scotland there's a no smoking policy, particularly in TV and film. They don't let you do it. But we sort of talked to people, and then they were electric. They were electric cigars.
Electric cigars.
They were electric cigars of different... I mean, occasionally we didn't tell them that I lit up, but we never told them, the authorities. But most of the time it was electric, and there were different lengths.
A friend of mine says of the game of golf, he says at the top of your backswing it's important to keep the number of thoughts in your head to under 100. Yeah. He says, when you're trying to play Winston Churchill, how many thoughts have you got going through I've got to have the inflection right, I've got to have I'm a Scot who's lived in the States, it's got to be a British accent.
Yeah, I mean, there's all of that. I mean, and also it was doubly difficult for me because we filmed in Scotland.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I said, "What? You're going to film in Scotland?" I said, "I'm Scots. Why are you doing that to me?" He said, "Well, we get it cheap." The creator of Scotland's giving us a deal. And actually, as you see the movie, the great locations. And Jonathan Triplitsky, who's a film countryman of yours, he's Australian. He filmed a lot of the Railwayman in Scotland, so he actually had seen the thing. But that thing about getting your head around it is you really got to compartmentalize. For example, the voice of Churchill that we know, and that clip that you just played, that's a construct. That's not Churchill. That was Churchill, who was the rhetorical Churchill, the the speech maker, and that was part of his job. That was what he did during the war. He made these speeches to inspire people, but it was a performance. It wasn't the guy. The guy was something else. So in our movie, as you saw the movie, at the end of the movie, he comes to the moment where you go into the Churchillian voice. And that made it a lot easier for me because I wasn't trapped into trying to create that every 2 seconds,